the infiltration began. The curse, the rot, the virus, the corruption of a higher critical approach to the gospel began to work. What are the ultimate results of this almost universal higher critical teaching? Here are some of the professors who taught the preachers in that divinity school during the course of the years. Professor G.B. Smith, Systematic Theology, who wrote, "The spirit of democracy protests against such an idea as that God has a right to insist on a rigid plan of salvation." Professor Soares, who said, "Redemption is an absolute fancy. Revelation is self-deception. We refuse the idea that the principal business of the church is to get people converted or committed to the Christian life." And Professor G.B. Foster, Baptist teacher in the seminary and pastor of a Unitarian church, wrote, "An intelligent man who now affirms his faith in miracles can hardly know what intellectual honesty means. The hypothesis of God has become superfluous in every science, even that of religion itself. Jesus did not transcend the limits of the purely human." We cannot but find ourselves in sympathy with the editorial of a great Chicago newspaper which said, "We are struck with the hypocrisy and treachery of these attacks on Christianity. This is a free country and a free age, and men can say what they choose about religion, but this is not what we arraigned these divinity professors for. Is there no place in which to assail the Bible but a divinity school? Is there no one to write infidel books except professors of Christian theology? Is a theological seminary an appropriate place for a general massacre of Christian doctrines? We are not championing either Christianity or infidelity, but only condemning infidels masquerading as men of God and Christian teachers."
So one of the things that he just said I think is really important, that the article basically says, look, people can think whatever they think, but aren't seminaries supposed to be training pastors in theology? Basically, the article basically said, like, are seminaries really the places where we're destroying Christian belief? Like, isn't that, like, we expect that from other places. We expect other places that aren't Christians to try to destroy Christian theology. But the fact that it's happening at a Christian seminary is crazy. I mean, that's his point. Like, the weird thing, and I've said this before, is that I think a lot of people thought that criticism to Christianity, what maybe Christians would have to fight against, would be maybe the outside, coming in, atheism, agnosticism, things like that. And though that's true, the bigger threat right now, currently to us, as well as the threat that Criswell is preaching against, as well as the threat that we talked about with Meacham that was preaching against and Spurgeon was preaching against, is actually doesn't come from the outside. It comes from the inside. It comes from pastors, professors, Christians, other Christians or so-called Christians that then critique the scriptures to a point of disbelief. And that's the whole point of the article. And again, this is why, and you see this through the entire sermon here, or the presentation. I'm really torn on what to call it. But as he's presenting this, he's saying, look, if you don't believe me that this is happening, here's an example. Here's another example. Here's another example. If you want to go down this road, this is where this road ends. Here's another example. And I think we really need to do a better job at this. I need to do a better job at this. As pastors, we need to do a better job of this, of not just presenting an issue, but doing the research and the background work is saying, here, this is the issue I see. This is why we need to address it. And in part, this is why I'm doing the sermon reviews, because I think lots of times people go, how bad is progressive Christianity? Could it really do anything? Look at history. If we don't have the men of God stand up with a backbone and say, this is nonsense, and we just let it happen, you will in quick order, and I think you are seeing currently in quick order, the church being torn down from the inside. Like, the atheists and the agnostics and the critics don't really even have to do anything. We can just sit there and watch it burn, because we're killing ourselves by allowing this to happen. What you just watched was a short clip from one of our sermon reviews. If you're interested in the rest of the review, make sure you check out the link in the description below.